Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a quick review of how do you find angles using trigonometry. As a bit of a warm-up, I just wanted to go over a concept with you. As you can see on the screen here, it says, how do you solve x squared equals 5? So the squared symbol is a special type of thing that we call functions in math. And there are many, many different types of functions. Sine, cosine, tan are functions, and there are others as well. What a function is just not one of the basic mathematical operations. It's not a multiplication, it's not a division, it's not an addition or a subtraction. It's a different thing. And we know that when we say x squared, it means find a number that multiplies itself twice to give the answer. So if you're trying to solve something like x squared equals 5, you need a way to undo that square. You can't divide by 2, you can't subtract by 2, you have to do something special to the 2 to get rid of it so that the x is all by itself. And the anti-function to an x squared is a square root. So if we square root both sides, and again, whatever you do on one side of an equation you have to do on the other, what does the square root of an x squared do? Well, it destroys the square and it pulls out the x all by itself. And now if we square rooted 5 on our calculator, we would get the correct answer. We're going to need this idea when we are trying to solve for angles and triangles. So let's set this question up. You'll notice that I again used theta as the variable for the angle, and in this case that's what we're trying to solve for. You're trying to solve for theta. Alright, we're going to start this off the exact same way as we'd start any other right-angled trig question. We're going to label the two sides of the triangle that we're working with. So if I cross over to the opposite side of the triangle, that means that's my opposite side. The 4 meters is touching the angle. It's forming the angle with this other side, but we know that other side's the hypotenuse, so the only side that the 4 meters could be is the adjacent. So with opposite and adjacent, the ratio we're using is TOA. Therefore, we would write tan, and because we don't know the angle, we're just going to put theta in that position, and that's equal to opposite 8 over adjacent 4. Now, here's one of the biggest mistakes that's made by students. This is not a multiplication. All right, I know that it looks like a set of variables next to another variable, but this is not a multiplication. That tan theta is similar to what this x squared does. Tan is a function that has enveloped theta. We need to destroy that function. So the way we do that is by using the anti-function to the function, and the anti-function to a tan is arctan, which we write as tan -1 on calculators. All right, so the symbol -1 here is not an exponent. It means the inverse function of tan, or the anti-function of tan. All right, and to get that button on your calculator, you often have to use the second button or the shift button on your calculator, and then press the tan button. It's usually in a higher, like right above the tan button. Okay, so we're going to arctan both sides. Now usually this step is not shown, but I'm going to show it this time. Sorry. So we're going to tan -1 the tan theta, and then on the other side of the equal sign we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tan -1, 8 divided by 4. might have noticed that 8 divided by 4 just gives 2, but eventually that's not going to be a nice fraction necessarily, so I just want to show you how you would type this into your calculator, and I'm going to pull my calculator up in a second. But what does this side give? Well, if we go back to my previous example, when we square rooted, sorry about that, when we square rooted x squared, it just gave x. In math, they call that the argument. You might not need to know that, but that's what that's called. So in this case, the theta is what's trapped. If I arctan tan theta, that's what's going to be released. So those two tan -1 and tan symbols cancel each other out. They destroy each other. And on this side, I would actually type that into my calculator. So I'm going to show you with my calculator here how I would do that. Now the first thing I want to make sure of is that your calculator has to be in degrees. So if you see RAD or GRAD in the window, or it could be an R or a G, you have to make sure that it either says DEG or D for this to work. We're working in degrees, okay? Now this calculator is a little bit backwards. I have to do the 8 divided by 4 first, which is just 2, all right? And now I have to arctan. So on this calculator, by dropping the trigonometry functions, here's the second button that I was talking about. If I click on that, you'll see that all of my sine, cos, and tans have become -1 versions of themselves. Those are the arcsine, arccos, and arctan. So we're working with tan. We've got to destroy tan, so we're going to arctan 2. And as soon as I do that, it has immediately arctanned the 2 to give me my final answer. Now I don't have to press the equal sign. If I do, it's going to do something weird here, okay? So we don't want to do that. I'll have to do it again now. That is the answer in this case, all right? So 63.4 is my final answer, and that's an angle value. So my final answer here is, we're going to round that off to 63 degrees. Wait a second, I just got to check something here. I can't remember how it rounds. Yeah, 63 degrees, I was right. All right, and that is my final answer. So today's recap of trigonometry is these new symbols, arctan, arcsine, and arccos, depending on what's given to us. So let's look at another example here. So here's my angle, and again, it's solve for theta. So how do I solve for theta? Well, let's label the two sides of my triangle from theta. So going across the triangle, that is my opposite side. In this case, the 30 feet is the longest side of the triangle, so that is the hypotenuse. And with opposite and hypotenuse, we're using so as our ratio. Therefore, I would write sine theta is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. And to quickly do this, without writing every step out, we can now just write the sine -1, which I'm actually going to use a different color for. So we're doing it to both sides, but on the left-hand side it just destroys the sine, so we already know that. On this side, however, we have to apply it to the 17/30. So I'll go back to my calculator here to show you how I would type that in. So let me just clear everything out here. So we would have 17 divided by 30 equals, and then I would do, in this case, I have to do the trigonometry button, second sine. So we're arc sining this time, and 34.51, so we can round that off to 35 degrees, is my final answer. And that should be enough for you to be able to do any of the homework questions or questions from this lesson. So we're going to stop there, folks. Have a great day. Enjoy your day.